been prepping for a safe Labor Day for the past 8 months. We start 8 months before the parade prepping. I will have deployed my men and women around the clock to make sure that Juve and Labor Day is safe. So yes, that is always a concern. It's always a prep. We're on high alert now because we don't want innocent people to get hurt. We never want acts of violence to take place, especially not during a parade in which we come together as a city and we celebrate culture. So yeah, we are meeting. We are making sure that we have appropriate numbers on the ground. I am challenging the city agencies to support groups like mine and put the investment behind the work, right? A lot of times when our men or women work past the 8 hours, we are not compensated.
Yeah. That was Kamara Jackson, the Executive Director of Elite Learners. Thanks so much for joining us.
Whether it's news from around the world or the latest from your neighborhood, New Yorkers turn to WNYC for the information and connection they can only get from All Things Considered. Be part of that conversation through your business's support of WNYC. Learn more at sponsorship.wnyc.org.
Marketplace is supported by Commvault. In business, things happen, like cyber attacks. Commvault rewinds data, cloud apps, and environments like it never happened. Commvault for continuous business.
On the program today, the consumer dichotomy, immigration detention as a business, and then we'll go cheese shopping. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Progressive Insurance, helping protect a wide variety of small businesses with over 30 customizable coverage options to choose from. It's small business protection that won't break the bank. Online quotes available at progressivecommercial.com. And by Schwab. Schwab knows that investors want control of their financial future. That's why when it comes to wealth management, Schwab is dedicated to giving investors more choices. More at schwab.com.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Ryssdal. It is Monday today, August the 18th. Good as always to have you along, everybody. We talk a lot about consumers on this program. We do that because consumers drive almost everything that happens in this economy. But far too often, and we here are guilty of this sometimes too, we talk about consumers as a monolith, one cohort of people that behaves in one particular way. That is, of course, not reality. And as what's happening in this economy happens, inflation going the wrong way, the labor market slowing, tariffs, and all the rest, the difference is in specifically which consumers are doing what is becoming more clear. The data points at issue for us today are, number one, the July retail sales report up 0.5% last month, so consumers still spending. But also, number two, consumer sentiment, which the University of Michigan told us Friday fell in early August a lot. Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman squares that circle, the disconnect between how consumers say they feel versus how they actually spend.
$1 spent at a store adds just as much to GDP, whether it's a rich or poor person doing it. But it turns out differences in spending levels between income cohorts, high, middle, and lower income households, might help explain why consumer spending overall has held up so well. Economist Dhiren Patki at the Boston Fed just published a paper analyzing credit card charges by income.
There's a lopsidedness in terms of the extent to which high-income consumers drive overall spending.
Patki, whose views do not represent the Boston Fed, says the top 1/5 of households, making $121,000 or more a year, have increasingly been propelling the consumer economy, while lower-income consumers have fallen further behind.
The total spending attributable to high-income consumers is, in our data, 7-to-1 greater than the total spending attributable to low-income households.
For years, lower-income households have been racking up credit card debt, and it's now significantly higher than before the pandemic. By contrast, the top earners,
their credit card debt has not yet caught up to 2019 levels, and those high-income households now have more room to spend the credit they have available.
Also, many higher income folks have sources of income other than a paycheck, says Kayla Brune at Morning Consult.
They can benefit more from things like the stock market has been doing pretty well this year, give them a little bit of that wealth effect to spend more.
Here's the thing, though. When the divergence in spending by income started growing back in the pandemic, higher income folks were feeling a lot better about the economy than other consumers. Now, says Joanne Shu, director of the University of Michigan Consumer Surveys, all income cohorts are about equally pessimistic.
Higher income consumers are very worried about the trajectory of inflation, about business conditions, unemployment, the negative impact of tariffs on the rest of the economy.
And Shu warns if they start to pull back, it's hard to see how consumer spending and the overall economy can keep growing. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
On Wall Street today, there was a little bouncing around, nothing substantive, though. My guess is the traders are keeping their powder dry for Jay Powell's big speech. There's a central bank get-together on Friday out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Wall Street, details, numbers, you know the drill. There has been, a lot going on, so we'll understand if corporate earnings season hasn't been top of mind for you. We're just about wrapped up with only a couple of big names left. Walmart, Target, Home Depot report this week. And so far, it looks like corporate America is hanging in there just fine, thank you very much. Q2 profits are on track for about 12% growth year over year. That's according to the financial data analytics firm FactSet. Marketplace's Savannah Peters has that story.
Heading into this second quarter earnings season, analysts set a pretty low bar for corporate America. Why?
Well, that's an easy one. It's the tariff rates that were so extreme.
Jeffrey Bookbinder is chief equity strategist at LPL Financial. He says the threatened rates were so high, and there was so little clarity about when they might take effect.
Just the overall kind of muddied tariff backdrop, I think, caused analysts to be really conservative. Of course, we now know that they were too conservative.
With year-over-year earnings growth on track to more than double many of those analysts' predictions. A lot of that growth was driven by tech companies after their big investments in AI started to pay off. But Stephanie Link, chief strategist at Hightower Advisors, says big banks also fared better than expected as the Trump administration eased oversight on that sector.
There's no question the financial services industry is seeing just better visibility because of deregulation.
And as Mitchell just pointed out, resilient spending helped consumer-facing companies defy gloomy expectations. Caleb Silver with Investopedia points to airlines that opted to not even guess how the second quarter would go.
Well, they've changed their tune because they've seen pretty strong demand, especially on the high end.
If corporate earnings and sales keep growing, Silver says that could prevent layoffs and help blunt the impact of tariffs for consumers. Sam Stovall with CFRA Research says that's something for the Fed to consider as it convenes in Jackson Hole this week.
It's almost as if the Fed are pulling petals from a daisy and really aren't sure where they're going to end up.
He says the labor market may be showing some cracks, and it's still not clear how higher tariffs will impact inflation. But for now, corporate results are one bright spot in a mixed economic picture. I'm Savannah Peters for Marketplace.
About 5 years ago, I went over to a place called Grand Central Market, kind of like a best of LA food court, a mile or so from Marketplace World Headquarters downtown. And I went to talk to Lydia Clark about her business. It's called DTLA Cheese. Hey, how are you?
Howdy. Really nice.
Nice to see you. Elbow bump.
Nice to
Here we
see
go.
you.
This is why I'm starting all my interviews these days.
I know,
Elbow
right?
bump. It's
yeah.
weird.
Well, you could maybe eventually get Parm Arm.
Parm Arm, it seems, is what happens after you break down a bunch of wheels of cheese. Lydia is all cheese all the time. Back then, mid-2020, foot traffic was way down at Grand Central Market. Thank you, COVID. And the first Trump administration had put a 25% tariff on European cheeses. and Lydia wasn't sure she would even make it into the following week. 3 years later, though, 2023, she had expanded, moved out of her cheese stall in Grand Central Market and into a standalone space and opened up a bar next door. So is business that good?
More.
Is that what's going on?
I mean, I hope so. I hope we've made the right decision.
So far, so good. She and her sister own another cheese shop out in Claremont, California. Anyway, we went back last week to say hi. Lydia!
Hi!
How are you?
Good. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's been a couple of years.
I know. Look
I'm
at
gonna
this.
give you a hug. Come on. I don't usually do this.
Well, I love that. Now, after this many years.
That's right. Because it's been like
hugs.
it's been like 5+ years we've been talking to you.
Wow. Time flies. It feels like
or it drags
yesterday,
interminably.
or
that's right.
I'm like 100 now. You haven't aged.
Oh, stop! You're too kind. I'll give you the easy first question. How's business? How you doing?
We are still open. So
okay, but don't you want to be doing more than that?
Yes, I would like to be doing more than that.
We were talking about this interview this morning in our production meeting.
Yeah.
And somebody said, it seems like every time we talk to her, she's kind of barely hanging on.
Oh, right. Of course, tears already.
Tears already? But it's been 30 seconds.
I know. Well, we'll get it out of the way.
All right, okay.
But, no, I mean, downtown has been hit hard.
Right,
There's
and we'll get there.
Yes, and I think it feels like really great, but there are so many moving parts to make a tiny micro business work. And I think we just haven't been able to see the other side of it. But business is still... We still get to wake up every day. We still get to do this.
Right.
The bar is still kicking.
Right next door, the Tinned Fish and Champagne
Kipper,
Bar. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so cute. It's a neighborhood bar. Cheese Cave, in Claremont. We're celebrating 15 years.
So let's talk about downtown LA.
Yes.
Right. Because in June with the National Guard and people just not coming here, how was that for you?
Brutal. I mean, it felt a little bit of, I think we just still are suffering from the PTSD of COVID. And so when it was we're right across from a federal building.
Right.
So come noon, there'll be a line for people for lunch. But when you don't go to the office, you don't have a line for lunch.
Right.
So then curfew, you have a bar and you have curfew. It's not the easiest. And so you try to okay, all catering orders that first week were canceled. So, and those are big things that come in, $3,000 of cheese boards for offices, and that's a lot of sandwiches, and that's a lot of wedges of cheese to make up for.
Yeah.
So,
obviously, you couldn't keep doing this if you weren't making money. But do you worry ever? And I'm so not trying to be facetious here, but do you worry that you love your product too much and that you're hanging on because you love it too much, and you could just go out to your place in Claremont, which has been there for 15 years, and but here it's hard here.
Yes.
In
but
LA.
Downtown deserves a cheese shop. And I've lived downtown for 13 years.
Yeah, a long time, because you had the place in Grand Central Market.
Grand Central, we were there for 10 years. We've been here for 2 years. And so these are my neighbors. I walk my dog and I see everybody. Mm-hmm. Oh, what's coming in the cheese case this week? Oh, what sandwiches you have? And we get so much affirmation from our regulars and from the things that are working that this is why I can't disappoint them either.
Okay, now I have to be the downer because I was listening back to the interview that we did in 2020-ish, right? When we came to see you at Grand Central Market because of tariffs, specifically tariffs on foreign cheeses, right? Here we are again with tariffs on cheeses. So of the, how many cheeses are in this case?
100.
100 cheeses. How many of these do you suppose are tariffed?
50.
And what are you doing with those tariff costs? Are you passing them on? Are you eating them?
A little bit of both. I mean, right now, every time we get a cheese in, we have to line item, and you're just seeing.
Really?
You're not seeing anything go down anymore. And you think it's it's $1, it's 50 cents. And so you raise thing up. So you don't really feel that necessarily at the beginning. But Switzerland, 39.
Right.
This will put cheesemakers out of business.
Cheesemakers over in Switzerland, just for example.
U.S. is top 5 of consuming of cheeses from Switzerland. But of this, it's all of these beautiful cheeses that come in fourth quarter. At this time of year, usually we're dreaming. What gets us through the dregs of summer where you're This is the time everybody should be eating cheese for dinner.
So wait, sorry.
We're like dreaming.
All those cheeses come in fourth quarter because that's the way cheese gets made.
Like,
I don't know.
It's been aged. So it's also,
okay. All
it's
right.
aged in like, this is the time of year when it's like at perfection.
See?
So
There
it's
you go.
like after sometimes 2 years, 3 years, Parmigiano Reggiano. And like, this is the time of year that this cheese gets to be here.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, you're going to pay 39% more, like on an already expensive cheese. I don't like to say cheese is expensive. It costs what it costs. But with it a tariff, now it's making it expensive.
Do you worry about your own business? Just to get back to where I started, this feeling I have every time I come in here that you're kind of hanging on by your fingernails.
Yeah.
Right? Do you worry about your business as a going concern?
Yes, I think I've had to like let go of that worry, because or else it will become all consuming.
It'll just be paralyzing,
So it's like,
yeah.
how do you turn that and find something positive? Like, life can suck at times, but you know what's good? Is cheese. So do I worry about it? Yes. Do I worry like about not choosing a stable career that could have retirement, and like, what does that look like for me? I'm not getting younger. But my sister and I, when we started the shops, it was like, yeah, we want to be two like old gray hair. I already have a lot of it, so I'm most of the way there. Like slinging cheese. Like, this is a joy. We think of cheese, we dream of cheese. Like, all of our crew, like all of our mongers, they love cheese. And seeing like the excitement from their eyes too when we get these wheels of cheese that we wait all year for, you know. And it's like, oh, we're cutting into this wheel of Conte, you know. Conte's been made for 1,000 years, and you're saying like, now it's got to cost this, and I have to explain like why we're not going to get this, because now it's like $20 more, you know, $30 more, and you do that across the way. And like, Cheese Cave like usually gets these really beautiful panettones from Italy, but it's like you're now asking the family to pay even more for this special panettone. And it's like, what risk? So we're having to make decisions out of risk and fear, which we've never had to do in 15 years. And that sucks.
I need, I was thinking this morning about cheeses and you. I had a really lousy manchego the other day.
Oh.
I need a good manchego or
Yeah.
something like it.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Well, I think let's do, I want to say like two different things.
Okay.
So one, doing something mixed milk like the Campo de Montalban, so still same region, but
Okay.
cow, goat, and sheep.
Okay.
And then Sweet Annie, made in Wisconsin, and we call her the Manchego of the Midwest.
Oh, I will do manchego of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Yes,
Awesome.
let's do that one. Give me
Yay.
you know,
Yay.
I don't even know what it measures out to be.
A finger slice is a quarter pound.
Yeah, quarter pound.
Cool.
Okay, so I wound up buying a half a pound or so, but I left it in the fridge at work over the weekend. It is coming home with me today. Coming up.
They have good pay, they have good retirement, they have good insurance.
Immigration detention is a business, people, and they are hiring. First, though, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's down 34 points today, less than 0.1%, 44,911. The NASDAQ basically flat, 21,629. The S&P 500 flat as well, 6449. As I said, holding their fire for Jay Powell on Friday. Savannah Peters was talking about corporate America doing just fine. That includes big banks. Wells Fargo charged ahead 0.4% today. Citigroup rang up about 0.6%. Lots of retail earnings coming from big box stores today. Could be another read on American consumers. Home Depot slid 1.2%. Target jumped 1.9%. Walmart pocketed about 0.7% today. Bond prices fell. The yield on the 10-year T-note rose. 4.33% is the number. You are listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Mercury, a fintech that offers banking, credit cards, and financial software. Marketplace is supported by LHH. LHH is a global talent solutions and advisory company using craft, human care, and innovation to create a beautiful working world. Recruitment, development, career transition. Learn more at lhh.com/beautiful. And by the United States Postal Service, offering postage stamps for purchase at checkout at over 40,000 participating supermarkets and drugstores, and at wholesale clubs Costco, Walmart, Sam's Club, and BJ's.
On the next All of It, clinical psychologist and psychoanalyst Dr. Orna Guralnik talks about the new season of her show, Couples Therapy, which follows couples with problems including suppressed shame, unmeetable expectations, and unhealthy communication mismatches. Plus, Queer Eye's Jonathan Van Ness, a.k.a. Professor Van Nasty. I'm Allison Stewart. Join us for All of It, weekdays at noon on WNYC.
WNYC receives support from the Joyce Theater, presenting 48 weeks of dance annually with companies from around the world, showcasing styles from breakdancing to classic ballet. The new season starts September 16th. Tickets are available now at joyce.org.
You're listening to Marketplace here on WNYC. We'll have more of All Things Considered coming up next hour, and at 8, it's On Point with a look at the checkered history of the Deep South. That's On Point at 8 o'clock tonight. Hope you'll stick around for it.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. Our macroeconomic number of the day today is 31, followed by 15 zeros. That's 31 quadrillion, and it's the number of British thermal units worth of energy, BTUs in the vernacular, that the United States exported last year. It is also, the Energy Information Administration says, a record. Almost all of it came in various flavors of fossil fuels, of course, crude oil, liquefied natural gas, propane, butane, ethane, a little bit of coal. All in all, it represented about 30% of total U.S. energy production. Daniel Ackerman has more now on how 2024's boom in energy exports happened and whether it might happen again.
Lots of domestic supply and plenty of eager global buyers made last year a good one for energy exporters, says Mark Finlay of Rice University. He says the supply story is a simple one.
In a nutshell, it's shale.
Finlay says shale fracking continued to yield oil and gas on the cheap. Meanwhile, Europe was looking to buy natural gas from places other than Russia following its invasion of Ukraine.
That's opened up new market opportunities for U.S. suppliers.
OPEC provided another opportunity. The cartel limited its oil production last year, says Jeff Kralowitz of the research firm Argus Media.
So you had this confluence of all these factors where the world needed U.S. energy and the U.S. had more energy to provide.
But Kralowitz says the outlook for U.S. energy exports is
a little bit of a mixed bag.
He says there's still a lot of global demand for liquefied natural gas, and U.S. firms are having no problem locking in long-term contracts to supply it. But oil prices have been falling this year.
At these prices, it's hard to see Permian and other U.S. shale crude production rising very much this year.
But even with slow production growth, Hugh Daigle of UT Austin says there still should be plenty to export.
Because demand here in the U.S. is just not rising as rapidly as we're seeing the production output rise.
And so?
I think that we'll continue to see strong exports of American energy, maybe not to the degree we saw last year.
Another thing that could affect energy exports is what kinds of energy the U.S. consumes, says Tom Sang at Texas Christian University. The Trump administration is blocking the permitting for new wind and solar projects.
If we're going to reduce the growth in green energy, the most flexible additional supply out there is natural gas.
Which means some of that gas that would have been exported might be burned here in the U.S. instead. I'm Daniel Ackerman for Marketplace.
Republicans in Congress and the Trump administration put $45 billion in their tax cut and spending law for more immigration detention facilities. They're going to use the extra room in service of the government's promise to deport 1 million immigrants a year. That is, by any measure, an historic investment in detaining and removing people from this economy. Marketplace's Elizabeth Trovall spent some time looking into who's going to profit.
2 companies are likely to gain the most from the more than tripling of ICE's annual detention budget: CoreCivic and the GEO Group. These private prison companies held their Q2 earnings calls earlier this month.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
I'll admit, these calls are dry.
Second quarter 2025 earnings results.
But they're a window into the opaque world of immigrant detention. If you've seen the footage of people being arrested on the streets and at workplaces, you can guess. These companies running the detention centers they're sent to are raking it in. CoreCivic CEO Damon Hinegar.
We are in an unprecedented environment with rapid increases in federal detention populations nationwide.
CoreCivic's revenue from ICE last quarter went up by 17%, thanks to
the highest detention populations ever recorded by ICE, which has been our largest customer for over 10 years.
ICE pays roughly $165 a day for each person held in detention. More arrests mean more money for these companies. And that's exactly what GEO Group's George Zoley told investors happened in Q2 with
the highest level of ICE utilization in our company's history.
Now they're making thousands of more beds available as billions in new funding comes through. CoreCivic's Hinegar again.
The intensity has really picked up.
Under new contracts with ICE, private prison companies are filling up detention centers in Texas, California, New Jersey, Michigan, and Georgia, bringing in millions in revenue. And more contracts for new detention centers are on the horizon. Already, some 180 detention facilities are used by ICE to hold immigrants. That detention space is concentrated in rural Louisiana and Texas, in places like Polk County.
Deep East Texas. We're a very rural county, mostly lots of timber and pine trees.
Sydney Murphy is Polk County judge, where median household income is under $60,000 and the employment rate is about 45%.
Limited resources all the way around.
Since the Trump administration ramped up detention and deportation, Murphy has already seen it impact the local economy.
There is an increase in employment out there of our local residents.
The Immigrant Detention Center is a top employer in the county. It's run by a private company called Management and Training Corporation. She says those jobs,
they have good pay, they have good retirement, they have good insurance. And here, for a rural community, that's big.
Other major employers in the county are the prison, a casino, and wood and paper manufacturers. But the detention center brings more than just jobs, Murphy says. The county gets paid based on how many people are locked up.
We receive a portion of the funds that ICE is paying. It's revenue for us.
While detention centers can bring jobs and revenue to a place like Polk County, experts say there's no evidence that they bring about a big economic boom or have a multiplier effect on the local economy. And if we zoom out a bit, there's a bigger economic story at play, the labor story. Because when I ask immigration attorney Jose Luis Martinez about who he sees detained and up for deportation in Polk County,
a lot of times with my clients, it's the primary breadwinner that's the one that's detained in detentions.
While the government is paying $165 a day to keep that person locked up, that's one less person working a hard-to-fill job, one less person in the U.S. labor force, a labor force that needs to expand in order to drive economic growth. I'm Elizabeth Trovall for Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Odoo, dedicated to providing software designed to scale with businesses. Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more aim to provide building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what businesses need. And by Commvault, helping companies discover the minimum data, apps, and functionality they need to remain viable and stay in business after an attack so they can become a continuous business.
This final note on the way out today, a quick follow-up to the conversation Greg Ip and I had on Friday, the changing nature of American capitalism in the Trump era. Bloomberg has been all over this story that the White House is thinking about converting some or all of the grants that the Biden administration made to Intel as part of the CHIPS Act, about $8 billion worth or so, into equity, that is to say shares of stock. If it happens, it would make the federal government one of that company's biggest shareholders. Amir Babawi, Caitlin Esch, John Gordon, Noya Carr, Amanda Peacher, and Stephanie Seek are the Marketplace editing staff. Kelly Silvera is the news director. And I'm Kai Ryssdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APM.